The Bills have made multiple signings and moves as training camp injuries begin to pile up. The linebacker room just got shaken up, with one player waived and another added to the roster. After dealing with injuries for most of his time in Buffalo, linebacker Baylon Spector's future is now uncertain. And in his place, the Bills are taking a chance on a former Army captain. My name is Maeve Miller. I'm a member of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Bills Digest for all the latest updates during this offseason. So like I said, Spector's time with the Bills has definitely been underwhelmed because of these injuries that he's had, and that was ultimately due to why he was released. So he's originally brought into the Bills in 2020. He's a rookie out of Clemson, and he spent the last 3 seasons with the Bills and is now a 26-year-old. So he definitely missed a little bit of his prime due to these injuries, and the main reason for this release was because he re-aggravated a calf injury on Monday. So other injuries that he sustained were back and hamstring problems early on in 2022, 2023. And last season in week 9 of practice, he had that calf injury. That was kind of like the original start of this. He missed 4 games and was brought back because Milano was hurt, but he ended up getting injured again in the week 16 against the Patriots and was put back on that injury list. However, in 2024, he definitely tried to battle against these injuries. He had a career-high 11 games with 40 tackles and 1.5 sacks. However, in these 2-3 seasons he spent with the Bills, he's only played in 15 games total. So I feel that's definitely a main reason why the Bills decided to cut him. However, he was in the last 2 seasons in a position battle with Joe Andreessen, and Andreessen ended up beating him out even without these injuries. So I feel like his time was definitely near, even if he had remained healthy. But he definitely brought a lot of intensity, a lot of versatility on special teams. But these injuries ultimately won out. So it is tough to see a guy like this go who's extremely hardworking. But there's not much you can do when you just keep on getting hurt and can't stay healthy. On Twitter, there was definitely a lot of different opinions on this. This tweet said, "I feel like he lasted this long because McDermott saw potential. But he continues to not be able to stack healthy weeks in order to find that potential into talent." Feels sort of bad for him, though. That's definitely true because, when you get injured this much, he's not getting reps in practice, not getting reps in games, and even things like training camp, mini camp, he's been sitting out of. This other tweet said, "End of an era, dude had promise." So they're acknowledging that he did have this potential and promise, but it was more the execution that didn't work out. The other end, these tweets in response to the tweet about him being released said, "Finally, about time. Wish him all the best. Seemed like a good dude, but I can't help admit I'm relieved." Which I definitely agree with that. Obviously, you don't want to wish anything ill on him, but, when he kind of played in those 11 games last season, you could definitely see he wasn't up to par with some of these other players, and just not very reliable. So, wish him good things in the future, but I think it was a good move. And the Bills end up replacing him with the new addition, Jimmy Charlo. Like I mentioned earlier, he was formerly on the Army, and he went undrafted in 2024. He did join the Jets briefly during their preseason last year. He had 4 special team snaps before a knee injury ended his preseason. I think that was in the first week in August. But I think things we can hope that he stays healthy and he could be maybe compete for a depth role. He definitely won't be a star player, but I think the linebacker room is very fluid and a lot of things are going on that he could end up having a role. And here's some other facts about him, some of his stats, how he's a captain in 2023. He started in all of his games with 5.5 sacks, a career best. So he definitely has some good, stats against him. I like how the Bills post this so you can kind of learn a little bit more about him because, when these undrafted players or rookies, you don't really know too much. So I'm definitely excited to see what he can do. I don't know too much, but he was listed as the 3rd string for the strong-sided linebacker behind Dorian Williams and Keontae Jenkins. And Jenkins is a undrafted free agent with a lot of potential. I made a video about him before that a lot of reports and analysts think that he could bring a lot to the Bills, even though he has more of an understated role. And this tweet shows that Charlo is working alongside Matt Milano, which I really like because Milano is just a very veteran. He has so much experience, definitely one of my favorite players out on that defense. So I think working with someone like him is great, especially because Milano is in the final year of his contract. And as a guy who's been plagued with injuries too, we don't know how, I assume he won't be re-signed with the Bills, which is very sad, but it's kind of what happens. And this, a tweet also mentioned that they asked this account to do a scouting report of Charlo, and this says, definition of grit, moves laterally exceptionally well, high motor, will absolutely be an impact on the field for you guys and certainly be a great presence in the locker room once he gets his feet under him. So that's very optimistic, positive. You can't expect too much of a guy that wasn't drafted, but I think the fact that he said that's a good presence in the locker room and make an impact is all great news. So definitely excited to see what Charlo can do, but expectations aren't too high at this point. I want to talk about where the linebacker room stands now because, like I said, there's a lot going on with that. It's definitely competitive, a lot of fluidity going on. I think the top spots are reserved for right now Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard. Bernard definitely had a more breakout season in 2024, and he's quickly become also one of my favorite players on the defense. He's very trustworthy, reliable, and just plays very well. But I think the depth behind these two guys is where things get a little interesting. We have Dorian Williams, who returned back from a leg injury, and this is him, a video of him it says a sizable brace on his left leg, and he's practicing with Joe Andreessen, who are two guys that are definitely on the rise for the Bills. Andreessen, otherwise known as Buffalo Joe, a local guy who I just really like. I'm glad that he's definitely worked his way up and been a big part of the Bills. He made the most of limited snaps last year and definitely showed promise in special teams and in those lower depth roles. And I think he definitely had a little bit of a rocky start, but I think in these training camps, it's been noticed that he's more confident. And like I said, he already passed Spectre on the depth chart before the injury occurred. So he's definitely making moves up. Speaking of the depth chart, this is kind of what I wanted to show this. We have weak side linebacker Milano. Jack Thompson is a second string. He's listed as questionable, but he was recently brought in as a free agent. So we're not really sure what he can do, but I'm excited. Next is Terrell Bernard, who I'd mentioned, that top spot with Joe Andreessen in the second string behind him. Strong side linebacker Dorian Williams, Keontae Jenkins, and Jimmy Charlo at that third spot. So I'm definitely excited to see what they can do. There's going to be a lot of, competitions, which is always healthy, especially between, I think, like Charlo, Andreessen, Jenkins, and may the best player win. You want your strongest guys out there, especially because our defense is in need of a little bit of work. That's what the offseason was focused on, is that our offense, not much to work with. We have, Allen's playing great, Cook, wide receivers are good, but it's that defense that just needed to get up to par with their Bills offense in order, I think, to make it into that Super Bowl. That's what's been kind of holding us back, because in these games, the Bills have been scoring well, against the Chiefs and the divisional and the championship games. But the defense is what needed a little bit more bulk. So I think making these moves, cutting guys that are injured, is a great move, because the Bills already are hit with so many injuries that it's better to get these kind of guys out that are just always hit by injuries. So we'll see what Charlo can do, and we wish the best for Spectre. Once again, please subscribe to the Bills Digest YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and go Bills.